Jared, Philip, Michael, Jimmy, Robbie, and Rhea present Just Mercy, a story of justice and redemption by Brian Stevenson. Stevenson started the Equal Justice Initiative at Montgomery, Alabama. He has fought for changes in the law system and has won relief for dozens of unfairly accused individuals. He is also a teacher of law at the New York University. Early on, Stevenson challenged the unfair treatment of prisoners, including solitary confinement. If you acted out, you were forced to sleep on the concrete floor of your cell without a mattress. If you shouted or screamed, your time in solitary was extended. If you hurt yourself, your time in solitary was extended. If the guards didn't like your attitude, your time in solitary was extended also. Ian Manuel is just one of the many examples of incarcerated children who are forced to suffer in solitary confinement. Juveniles housed in adult prison are 5 times more likely to be the victims of sexual assault. So the staff at the Appalachia prison put Ian, who is small for his age, into solitary confinement. Mental disability is another cause of unfair trials, as the defendant is unable to properly defend themselves. Herbert Richardson was a Vietnam War veteran whose nightmarish experiences and brutal conditions left him traumatized and scarred. His mental disability prevented him from being able to properly differentiate right from wrong, which led him to commit a crime he did not want to commit and ended up on death row. Another issue of the justice system is children who are wrongly put into adult court. They are often unable to file the correct appeals at the necessary times, which can keep them from having the chance at freedom that they deserve. It is known that children who are forced to go to prison early in their life are likely to go back to prison sometime in their lifetime. In the case of Trina Garnett, she had no intent on killing anyone, even though there were casualties related to her crime. Judge Reed, the judge in charge of her trial, expressed serious misgivings about the life in prison he was forced to impose. "This is the saddest case I've ever seen," he wrote. Trina's trial proves that the problem of children in adult prison was as much a problem with the law as it was with prejudice. Money bail is another major proponent of economic aspect of legal inequality, creating an endless cycle of poverty and jail time. The constitutional principle, innocent until proven guilty, is violated when bail is evolved, especially in lower economic classes. Detainment affects employment and can lead to isolation. Youth who have been incarcerated experience diminished income in comparison with their non-incarcerated peers. During the early 1900s, throughout the South, being lynched was a huge threat for African Americans. A white sheriff reportedly told an inmate, "We're going to keep all you blacks from running around with these white girls. I'll take you off and hang them like we done them blacks in Mobile." This map of lynching shows just how common events like lynching were in the South at this time. In relation to deaths by lynching, this graph shows how much death sentences have increased from 1973 to today. Since the death penalty was reinstated in 1976, 1,455 men, women, and children have been shot, hanged, asphyxiated, lethally injected, and electrocuted by states and the federal government themselves. Incarceration rates vary by countries around the world. Today, we have the highest rate of incarceration over the entire globe. The prison population has increased from 300,000 people in the early 70s to 2.3 million people today. Compared to other countries, our incarceration rates are a lot higher and have skyrocketed in the recent past. Mothers have an unfair history of getting arrested and charged with capital murder for the death of their children. Marcia Colby in Just Mercy is accused of this, even though she delivered a stillborn child. No doubt, the mother is heartbroken over her loss, yet they must face death row as a consequence. Prosecutors declared her guilty without adequate evidence or taking an account of her clearly being a caring mother of 6. The influence of media as a catalyst in starting mob mentality adds to the already existing problem. When a news headline like "Portrait of a Monster" or "Convicted Slayer" comes out before evidence is used to solidify that person's guilt, the public is likely to believe they committed the crime and become skeptical of any future evidence, even if it means ignoring the truth. One of the most significant cases Brian Stevenson has represented was for Walter McMillion's alleged killing of Rhonda Morrison. The truth actually was that he was being framed, but he was put on trial anyways due to corruption. Before the trial, he, and the white man being blackmailed to testify against him, were placed on death row, which is illegal before any sentences. The man responsible for wrongly testifying against Walter McMillion was Ralph Myers. He ultimately admitted that he had never known anything about the Morrison murder. He had no clue about what happened to her or anything else at all about the crime. He came clean, but not before causing unneeded grief for Walter, Stevenson, and the rest of the community that supported him through it all. Brian Stevenson in his book reported that Walter's family and most poor black people in his community were similarly burdened by his conviction. Black people in Monroeville knew someone who had been with him that day he committed that crime. The pain in that trailer was tangible. The community seemed desperate for some hope of justice. The realization left them anxious but determined. In the end, the determination paid off with his freedom. Some may claim prison conditions have drastically improved since then. The old Angola prison used to force its inmates to work on plantation farms as slaves. However, Bryan Stevenson notes throughout the entirety of Just Mercy cases of prisoners raped, abused, put into solitary confinement, and unjustly executed. Though slavery has ended in prisons, there is no lack of treating prisoners as merely objects. The Equal Justice Initiative is a non-profit organization created by Bryan Stevenson to help those who have been wrongly accused and don't have the money to hire an attorney for themselves. It started out really small with just him and his assistant in Montgomery, Alabama. EJI now has numerous attorneys that have joined the cause, and they have helped free dozens of wrongly convicted individuals. Keaton Butter is one of the fortunate souls who have been helped by EJI. He was sentenced to 155 years in adult prison as a juvenile, just months before life sentences without parole became outlawed for convicted minors. In 2017, with the help of EJI, he was able to have his term shortened, and today is now free. George Martin is another one of the wrongfully accused that Bryan Stevenson and his staff have helped walk free. He was accused of killing his wife to collect the insurance money from her plan. EJI was later able to win his freedom by presenting new evidence not previously brought to light and prove he did not kill her. EJI was able to present 104 new exhibits of evidence and 28 new witnesses. The true measure of our character is how we treat the poor, the disfavored, the accused, the incarcerated, and the condemned. The power of just mercy is that it belongs to the undeserving. It's when mercy is least expected that it's the most potent. Injustice in trials, convictions, incarceration conditions, and terms in contemporary courts arise from racial, economic, age-related, and mental status-related factors.